We're slowly getting closer and closer to the launch of Google's flagship devices for this year. But among all of those rumors, we're hearing another one. This one's come out of nowhere, but in fact, Google are actually planning to buy out HTC. Now, apparently they're in the final stages of this deal, but how has all of this come about? Well, we know that HTC over the last couple of years haven't had the best of years. The HTC One M7 and the HTC One M8 were arguably their best smartphones. Now, of course, the HTC U11 that they came out with this year wasn't too shabby, and I even made a review about it, and it was all good. But even though they've got all of these great hardware features, they sort of tend to not stand out among the likes of Apple or Samsung and even LG, just because they don't have enough financial firepower at the moment. And it doesn't really take smart people to know that. I mean, look at these graphs. That said though, here's how Google can help, or why they should help. Well, first of all, if they do help, it solves HTC's financial issues. But there's more in it for Google than just helping a company out. Without HTC, the Pixel device that Google came up with last year wouldn't have been possible. It was the first time Google actually dictated everything they wanted on the smartphone, and HTC had to just hear what they were saying and follow it. And if Google does buy out HTC, the same sort of thing can carry over in future years as well. We know at Silicon Valley, Google's fiercest competitor is of course Apple, and Apple has the power to develop its own hardware, as we see them making their own processors and their own GPUs, and Google doesn't have that. So this acquisition might trigger the way for Google to actually get more power in terms of hardware and not just software. Let me go back a few years and remind you that Google actually acquired Motorola, a smartphone manufacturer, and the same thing kind of is happening with HTC this time around. So HTC could fear that Google might sell HTC off in the near future, just like they did with Motorola. But here's why that won't happen. With Motorola, it was a company that pioneered Android budget smartphones, and Google just couldn't dissolve the entire name, so they had to keep it. Whereas HTC, they're sort of in this struggling phase. They have the hardware power to compete with the likes of big companies, but they don't necessarily have the software power, and that's where Google can come in, really collaborate and make this ultimate Android smartphone experience. And in the process, they can actually solve HTC's problem of finances, making everyone involved pretty happy with the deal. But even if the deal does go through, it will be very long until we actually see the effects of this deal. So it'll be around 6 months to even 1 year before all of this has been implemented. And we already know that HTC is working with Google on the Pixel 2 device, whereas LG is working with the Pixel XL2. And what Google has done with LG is to actually order them to make custom OLED panels for the Pixel XL2, which means Google is really focusing on this hardware issue that they have, and they really want to solve it, and HTC looks like their solution. Once again, all of this just strengthens the argument of Google wanting hardware power. Apple's had it for years, and Google is kind of lacking in that department. They don't have the fast updates that Apple gets. They have the fragmentation issue that Apple doesn't really suffer from, and all of the other issues where people don't get the latest updates for another 6 months could be solved if Google actually plans on making their very own smartphones with the buying out of HTC and of course their help. And does that mean HTC just vanishes? Not really. HTC's got a very widespread market. They don't just deal with smartphones, they've also expanded onto VR and virtual reality with the HTC Vive headphones. So what Google is kind of planning to do is to take the R&D department of HTC, especially focused on smartphones, and strategically acquire that, whereas HTC could do its own thing on the VR front that Google doesn't really care about that much. For anyone thinking this will involve a lot of money, you're right, it will. But with the financial backup that Google has, as well as its parent company Alphabet, any sum of money will always seem tiny for them. That's pretty much it. If the deal does go through between Google and HTC, it will be one of the biggest deals in recent times. And as far as Android is concerned, it will be a really nice step in the positive direction in terms of lesser fragmentation and faster updates. Let me know what you guys think about the whole deal scenario. Do you think it's gonna go through? Let me know in the comments down below, and subscribe for more videos like this one in the future. As always, I hope you guys learned something new from this video, and thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Adios.